So Tyler here is a new agent at the Dig Agency, and last month he closed 49,310 AP in approved business on a total of 58 policies approved that I mentioned he just started last month for his first full month. So I got Tyler here to walk you through how he was able to do this as a new agent to the Dig Agency, selling final expense over the phone remotely with free leads, and to kind of walk through a day in his life and to give you guys some perspective on how you can duplicate similar results. Tyler, welcome. How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you, Dave?
I'm good. Thank you for doing this again. I appreciate your time, and this stuff is really beneficial to new agents who are just trying to find their way in many cases. So,
Absolutely.
give us a little background about yourself. How'd you end up selling insurance?
Sure. Well, I kind of just stumbled on the space. I come from a logistics and consulting background as a business owner, grassroots, kind of bootstrapped my first company there. And I was getting kind of burnt out on managing and babysitting adults that didn't like to show up for work, handling payroll, doing a lot of the things that come with scaling a business when you're the owner. And I wanted a brain break. I wanted a season of life where I was able to go through and have a particular amount of set tasks, and as long as I accomplished those things, well, I was going to be paid according to them. But also, I wanted to have a little bit of a sentiment of being able to control your own destiny and create your income based off of your value and the amount of work that you're willing to put into the space. But really, kind of how I got into it is I have some friends. I'm down here in Arizona, originally from Washington, but I have some friends in the space, and they're with one of the three-letter agencies. And it seemed to me when I was looking at the space from the very beginning, before I was licensed or anything like that, and was contemplating or considering getting into the space, that a lot of folks that I know personally who have found success in the space find success almost singularly by recruiting and not by actually doing the thing. And it seems like it's that way a lot these days. It's a lot of affiliate marketing. It's a lot of selling the dream or selling the idea, but a lot of people who are selling the dream or the idea don't actually go and do the thing.
Right.
And before I ever wanted to do anything like that, I wanted to make sure that, hey, there's some proof of concept here and there's an ability to actually make an income while still following a moral and ethical basis, in this space as a whole. And when I was looking around, really what I was finding is that, okay, there's a lot of folks, it's fairly easy to go practice for a couple of weeks, go and get your license, and then it's kind of like the wild west of, well, what the heck do you do after that?
Yeah.
There's so many different people offering so many different services and so many different types of policies to sell. And for me, it was like, okay, what's the most efficient way to find success in this space, and something that's cyclical and will repeat itself so that you could do it over and over again. And it seemed to me, just with the boomer generation nearing retirement, that final expense was going to be that space for me, especially not having being green in the space and not having a lot of experience or any at the time, a month and a half ago, in insurance at all. It seemed like it was a no-brainer for me that final expense, as long as we were doing it in an ethical manner, was kind of the way to go to get into the space. So then it was kind of the question of, okay, so many different people are offering this type of a service. Well, who's the right guy to go with to partner with to actually sell this product? And for me, when I found Dig, I think, honest to goodness, it was kind of a no-brainer because of the infrastructure that was provided. And I think that's the major key that's lacking in this space as a whole is people, they go, they get licensed, and then they don't really understand what the next steps are. They don't understand, the granular or logistical details of, okay, now that I'm licensed, how do I go and get appointed to a carrier? How do I do marketing? If I'm putting up my own marketing dollars for leads and they don't convert because I don't have a script or I don't have anyone properly training me, and now that marketing budget that I had is burnt through and nothing closed, how am I going to survive in this space?
Right.
And when I saw that, okay, there's legitimate training and coaching involved, there's a legitimate path, clear path to success, and that the leads are free, of course. It was really just kind of a no-brainer to land with Dig. I
So
think things just kind of aligned.
thank you for all the nice words, by the way. I want to break
Mm-hmm.
down a couple of things here in mind with the
Sure.
audience is likely new to this business or curious about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like you to kind of expand on some of these things because I think you have a unique perspective as a business owner. You understand, there's a lot of different businesses out there, and some products scale easier or easier to work with. Maybe not easy, but simpler is a better word to use. So you mentioned you looked at final expense and you went with
Mhm.
that. What about final expense from a business or a sales standpoint would you say to a new agent is appealing versus other products that's out there?
I'll give you a perfect example. So when I was entering the space after I had decided, hey, this is something that I'm going to commit to. I'm going to give it a particular amount of time to see if I can actually breed me success or convert these thoughts and efforts into dollars in the insurance space at a whole. My first intention was not final expense. My first intention was with infinite banking because the commissions are large.
Yeah, for sure.
With
Yeah.
past businesses that I had built, I was familiar with high ticket sales or selling a higher ticket. And at the end of the day, insurance, it is still sales because you're paid on a commissionable basis. Um, and what I found is that the sales cycle was so long. There wasn't this sentiment around a one call close like there is with final expense. So I was looking at it and I was saying, okay, if I can go through 6 weeks worth of work for a $10,000 commission, that's excellent. That's great. But if that one deal that I've been working on for 6 months doesn't end up converting, if someone's wealth management team or something like that with infinite banking in mind uh, pulls the rug on this thing, well, that's 6 weeks worth of work and $10,000 payable that equates to $0 in my bank account personally.
Right.
So when I went over to final expense, well, yeah, of course, in any business, you're going to have micro amount of churn rate or a fall off rate where people decide, hey, this isn't for me. They can't afford it. Or they end up canceling their policies or something like that. But from a risk tolerance standpoint or a risk assessment perspective, I looked at it and said, okay, if I can go and I can sell, you know, 20 people and make the same $10,000 versus the one person and make the $10,000 from a risk assessment standpoint, there's no question that it makes more sense logistically to go into sell final expense because even if two people or three people, 10 or 15% of the people fall off or cancel their policies from final expense, well, you still have the 17 or 18 that's going to equate to that, actual dollars in your bank account where you wouldn't have had it with other longer sales cycles of type of policies in this space as a whole. So I think that's one of the biggest things is that you can jump in here when you have any sort of acumen after just a couple of weeks of training and you could begin to plug and play and make money instantaneously.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long to be able to do it and to continue to do it and to understand, okay, here are the efficiencies I need to be able to pick up on to increase my income or my sales per week by X amount. It's pretty simple.
You bring up a really fascinating point because right now in the marketing space or the sales space, everybody's talking about high
Mm-hmm.
ticket. And look, it's great, right? But the problem with high ticket is a full pipeline, and the turnaround time to closing deal. So there's trade-offs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the lower ticket stuff gets scoffed at. But one of the things that's cool about final expense, like you said, just to reemphasize this to the audience, is that the first sales call, like when you pick the phone up and you start your pitch, the objective is to close 100% of the time at the end of that. Now, sometimes you
Yes,
don't, but there's no follow-up calls. There's no second or third
correct.
visits or talking to their accountant or whatever. Like you're going to either sell
Mm-hmm.
the deal or not within the next 30 to 60 minutes. And then if you don't, it's over. There is some kind of comfort in that because you move on to the next call. And the nice thing
Sure.
about that is that with enough leads, which is why we do a free lead program, we have infinite leads. You never run out of them. You can
Yep.
just put time on task to scale your production up to immense levels. And something you said really resonated with me too as well. There's safety in numbers. And in big ticket sales, yeah, there's big commissions, but if the deal doesn't follow through, it's a lot of time
Mm-hmm.
and effort wasted. Whereas in small ticket sales, you might get 20 sales in a month, let's say, and then maybe four or five don't make through, but at least you kept 75% of something versus the same amount of effort for zero, right? So
Correct.
these are things to consider. Not saying high ticket's bad, but low ticket isn't either. And one of the big things in any marketing methodology is having enough people to talk to. You want more the more people you can talk to, the safer the business is, and that is a thing that final expense can provide that other businesses can't, especially high ticket. Infrastructure. Can you build on the importance of having define the infrastructure a little bit more for the audience and why that matters? Because again, I'll do my sales pitch in a minute, of course, why I think it's great, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about the power of an infrastructure that works well.
Yeah, and before I, even give my thoughts or perspective on your infrastructure in particular, the infrastructure as a whole is, the foundation of the any business that you're going to get started with. If you don't have a solid infrastructure, if you don't have solid and efficient systems and processes in place, well, yeah, anybody can get started in business. Anybody can go and can get their license. Anyone can go and they can buy leads. But if you don't know from A to Z, every single step in the process of what is required to be able to do the thing and convert the lead into profit in your bank account and to do it over and over again, even at scale, then the infrastructure is not there and it's going to fail. The business is going to fail
Okay.
inevitably. It happens all the time. Folks, they scale quickly, they have a great product, a great service. In whatever sector or sphere of business that they're in, but if they don't have that solid infrastructure in place, then the business eventually it will bottleneck and you're not going to be able to profit any longer or past what the current threshold is. Particularly with your infrastructure, I think that's something that is, as far as I'm concerned, unique in the space, especially in a space that so many people are marketing right now, so many people are jumping into right now. There's so many people that are doing life insurance, but final expense in particular right now because the sales cycle is so quick and you can get paid so quickly.
Right.
But with your infrastructure in particular, there's a very clear path to success from the day that you're licensed up until the day that you're selling, and then thereon, what you need to be doing from when you're selling to be able to increase your efficiencies and continue to improve on your own personal production or performance. And what it looks like in particular is, or the expectation that somebody should hold when they're entering into this, or if they're looking at the dig agency, is really you'll go through, you'll get licensed. Now, once you're licensed, you'll go through and you'll have a lovely phone call with a gentleman with the dig agency. And on their approval, you'll go through, you'll buy several other non-resident state licenses. You'll get your typical E&O insurance. You'll get appointed to several different carriers per their recommendation. All of these things happen in a pretty quick timeline, depending on your situation and the state licenses you may or may not already have. Once you have those things, it's pretty cut and dry. You go into the training program, you practice the scripts, which are every word and every tonality in the script is designed for maximum efficiencies, and they're working scripts that are being adjusted and improved on, and adjusting with the market constantly as well, because there's a
Yeah.
great sales trainer that we haven't even mentioned yet, Tim Hildebrandt. Um,
Yeah.
but once you
Wizard,
go
Wizard of
through and you,
Oz,
oh my
man
goodness,
behind the
he's a
curtain.
the
Yeah.
guy's the guy's a rain man.
Yeah, he
No
is. He
kidding.
really is.
But once you go through and you do all of the training, which is all very clear and concise, in their training program, you really let Tim know. You say, Tim, hey, I'm ready to go through and I'm ready to hit the phones. Well, when you're ready to hit the phones, you've already done the work, you've already done the training, you've already met with the team, you've already seen what all the other top producers are doing. And it's not really like competing amongst each other, because like David mentioned, there's a plethora of leads. You're not going to run out of the ability to sell this particular product. You're really only going to run out of the ability to focus or have hours in the day. You can work really whenever you want, as long as it's along with TCPA compliance rules. Um, but everybody really helps each other on a daily basis continue to improve and continue to pick up efficiencies that they may not have had prior. So when you go in and you begin selling, in your first couple of days you might get a sale, but 2 or 3 weeks down the line you could be getting 10 sales in a week. I mean,
Right.
it truly can scale that
Oh yeah.
quickly, and I can say it firsthand because it happened with me, you know.
So thank you. Yeah, and to me, the big thing with what we do is that there are a lot of free lead agencies out there, but it's more than just getting leads for free. As I've discovered as we've
Mm-hmm.
worked through the last year or so, you have to have an entire process and system and infrastructure behind it to make it work. And the things I think work really well that have made the hugest impact is there's a couple of things, no particular order here. Number one is training. Like you said, the script really matters. Getting really dialed into the tonality, how you say things, what you say, etc., is very important. And we work diligently at making you understand to the best that we can how to say and what to say in order to make sales. Of course, our lead system. One of the things that separates us from typically other agencies is most lead systems are third party outsourced, and they're buying
Mhm.
data at very cheap prices, and they're not actually generated in house. We do everything in house. There's been a few times where we tried to test against our leads against other sources, and they don't ever come close. We have some of the highest close rates in the business because all of our leads, we have an internal marketing division designed dedicated to generating leads. And I can't stress enough how big of an impact that makes on our ability to get good leads to our agents. Um, our proprietary or call system and CRM system does wonders to get rid of voicemails that you would otherwise have to listen to and waste time on. Making sure your numbers are clean, making sure so that people pick up the phone, they're not labeled telemarketer likely. We don't run into TCPA violations because our entire system accounts for that. You just get on the dialer and know that everything from a litigation standpoint is, or at least from a liability standpoint, I should say, is handled. And it just makes life easier. You just get on and call. And then the last
Mhm.
thing I'll say here, and this is what's great about having Tim especially on, is that for me personally, Tim is like the yang to my yin, and he is an incredible coach in the sense that he does not hold back exactly how he feels about your performance or lack thereof. And
Yep.
everybody needs accountability. Everybody needs
Mhm.
to be told where they stand. We have metrics that we show daily, so everybody knows exactly where they stand and how they compare to everybody else. But what that gives you the ability to, if you have the ability, the humility to be coached, is to see what you're doing and how you can do it better. And that's part of the reason why last month all of our top 20 agents wrote more than 20,000 in premium, which in this business is like a top 5% agent. Well, that's like
Oh.
almost half of our agents are
Mhm.
writing 20,000 AP. It's incredible. And, again, bottom line, the infrastructure is very important with us. I don't mean to get on my soapbox, but I think it's just such a vital thing that you guys should consider
Yeah.
whenever you're joining. Um,
Yeah,
question. Yeah, go ahead.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, so to go off of that, if there were one particular thing that I had to pull out of all of the different things that you consider when you're considering what agency to work with or anything like that, that I think the dig agency does spectacular at, that I think is different from folks that are offering free leads or folks that are not offering free leads, regardless. But one thing that I really think stands out within the dig agency in particular is exactly what you've already said, but I think it's super important to be able to make data driven decisions,
Yeah.
right? To be able to, and that's something that the dig agency does that not a lot of other folks do that I've seen in the space. So the hardest thing within this job is not learning the sale. The hardest thing is not to get your licenses. It's not to do the training. It's not to be able to go in and actually convert. The hardest thing within this job is to be able to manage the mental part of it, your brain, and to be able
Yeah.
to manage your energy levels when you have a day where there's 15 people in a row that are unhappy because they're having a bad day and they hang up on you or something like that. But then all of a sudden, the next day comes in, you look at your metrics and you say, oh, okay, I was feeling like I might have forgotten what I was doing, or I was feeling like I was dropping the ball. But the metrics are still showing that my percentages and that my overall performance and efficiencies are still exactly where they need to be. They're still tracking to be able to make the amount of income or close the amount of deals that I know I should be doing per week. And that's something that not a lot of other folks are doing right now, or are leaning as heavily on making those data driven decisions. And all of a sudden, it comes back to managing the mental part of this game, because there's ebbs and flows in every business, right? But
Right.
the cumulative effort of being able to say, hey, my average numbers are showing that I'm still tracking to be able to close X amount of deals or make X amount of income. And it's encouraging being able to have that that data to show you that, hey, you're still on track, you're still doing okay. Just follow the regimen, follow what the data says, follow the training that you've already been provided because of the great infrastructure that we have, and you're going to bear that success. And I think that a lot of people end up giving up in this space, or they end up seeing themselves as failing in this space because they get discouraged and they say, what the heck is going on? Why am I not able to close business? Well, if you're able to have the data to show, hey, if you just tweak this one thing, if you just keep pushing forward when 10 people in a row hang up on you in the first 5 seconds, you're going to have success. That's something that's setting you up overall to be able to have some longevity in this space, and to be able to actually make some income.
Yeah, it's funny you
It's
say
an
that
important
because
thing.
what everybody has in common in this business, from brand new agents to experienced agents, is it's a constant mind battle, right? Like every day you wake up unemployed. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know where your
Yep.
next sale is going to come from. You can only just hope and pray that it does. And you're going to have ups and downs, like big ups and big downs, right? And what we try to do with sharing the metrics on a daily basis, it's not to like shame anybody. It's to help you be accountable to yourself and what your goals are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it helps to see it. You got to inspect what you expect. If you expect something like some sort of results, well, you got to inspect it on a regular basis. And so if it's important, you should be looking at it. The other thing that it does is it is the rational attempt to counter the emotional problems of this business, right? Like, oh man, I've sucked today. I've just dialed and it's been terrible and these people suck, blah, blah, blah. Final expense sucks. But then you look at your numbers, it's like, oh, I'm still in line with even though I had this bad day, the
Yes.
facts line up and show me that's actually everything's fine. Because what we're battling with is second by second living life with the long-term expectations and goals. And it's like you can show this stuff on paper and it makes sense. Everybody gets it, but living it is different. And that's why we do what we do, because nobody's immune to this. Look, I'm just as emotional as anybody else selling. It's like some days suck
Right.
and you want to quit, but having those numbers prepared and shown to you, it makes a huge difference. It just keeps you on
It
track.
really does. Really does.
Well, Tyler, I want to just thank you again for an astounding month. Thank you for putting in the time and the effort to make it happen. It's been a pleasure working with you. And guys, if you out there are interested in joining the Dig Agency, I'm going to give you some next steps on how to learn more. If this is your first video, welcome. Please consider subscribing and liking. You can go down to the link in the description below. That'll take you to my website, davidduford.com. And that's going to show you exactly how the Dig Agency works. We have a lot of FAQ videos, a walkthrough video about how the business works, how the agency works, so you can decide if what we do is a good fit for you or not. After you're done looking at that, we do a one-on-one Q&A call a group Q&A call. We do those twice a week where you can come in and ask questions live to, again, answer anything that you have. We don't want you coming into this business and feel like confused. I mean, you're not going to know a lot, and there's going to be a learning phase, but we want the big stuff to be answered ahead of time so we don't waste your time and vice versa. And then after you do that, and you like what you see, you can click the apply button at the top of the page in order to apply with us. Again, we don't accept everybody. We are particular with who we choose. You don't have to have sold insurance or sold anything in order to be accepted. We hire on personality. We recruit based off of your character traits and your ability from a standpoint of your mindset to be successful. We can teach you everything. So don't be intimidated by not applying, but understand we are particular with who we choose because we've cycled through a lot of agents and have a good idea who's a good fit, who isn't. So if you want to learn more about joining, davidduford.com. And again, Tyler, thank you so much for being here, man.
That's my pleasure. Thanks, Dave.